What's up, everybody? I am back. I just wrapped up my uh the comic book review on due today, at least for this month, is Static Shock. Like got my static hoodie and thing on. I didn't want to get the full blown thing out because it's like I ain't trying to do all that changing, but I just wanted to make sure like I come dressed and impressed for this kind of thing because uh it's been the character of Static and the Dakota verse created by Dwayne McDuffie, the late great Dwayne McDuffie, who's done a lot for the comic book community and Milestone and DC, and then of course the Static Shock TV show and even a couple of Justice League TV shows, episodes, and but his particular milestone creations have been under lock and key by his wife and family for such a long time, and it couldn't really bring Static's world, characters like Icon and all the other, Icon, Rocket, all this the stuff that I personally haven't read before. I only know, I've heard of them, but I haven't read anything outside of Static, because growing up watching the Static Shock TV show, I'm more familiar with the characters in that world and his interactions with the Justice League every once in a while. Really cool show, one of the best in the world. Is right up there with like Batman TAS and Batman Beyond. So it took a while before DC reached some kind of deal with Mrs. McDuffie in terms of the use of the characters that her late husband created. So 2021 is when they finally brought in a revamped Static comic book line. It's only like short, miniseries things, which is fine. But just like with my review of Naomi, doing this whole season 1 titles, and they did a season 2 title in 2022, and it's like clearly they only doing that. I don't know why they titling like that. I know why they titling like that, but I don't feel the need. They need to do that. They can just give it like a particular title of the arc, but it's a mini series, and clearly they want to make it easy for any Hollywood bigwig to pull it, look at it specifically to make it easy for them, because they're dum dums. And it's like, okay, here's a particular title, name literally season 1. So here you got 6 episodes, that you can do something with. But unlike Naomi, that was mostly because Static Shock has always been a thing since, I don't know, maybe like the early 90s, mid 90s, something like that. And of course the TV show. So unlike Naomi, where it's like she's freshly new with new supporting characters, so you can't really pin down certain things to lay a hat on, in terms of her powers and what she can do and all that stuff. And in terms of adversaries that's unique to her, it's so ambiguous, so it's not as much fun. But with Static, you know what he can do. You know what type of, if you watch the TV show especially, you know what he can do. You know what type of villains he fights and the type of friends he has, and all that has been cultivated, ever since. So, it done most of the work for us. I haven't read a Static comic until after I saw the show back in the day, and he's been one of my favorite black superheroes of all time. And of course, I went dressed as him for C2E2 and Halloween last year. I'm going with a different black character this year for C2E2 and Halloween. As a matter of fact, I need to make sure probably late March get my because I'm going to be dressed as Echo from Arcane. Somebody suggested I should dress like that, and it's kind of a good idea. So that'll be my costume for this year, and I'm going to be wearing that as a for Halloween later in the year. Matter of fact, next week I'm finally gonna get my hair done, so that way it'll be relatively decent looking by the time C2E2 comes out in literally like a few days after my birthday in April. So it'll be good and ready. So anyway, I gotta get the slide going. Sorry, a little bit more prepared than this usually, but I was just too excited to get started. Like I said, it's only 6 episodes. Look how I'm doing. It's only 6 issues, so it's gonna be relatively quick. Happy Black History Month, by the way. Of course, Static got like a whole new look altogether. It's not this. This is like the TV show version of the costume, which we all more remember, and this is like more of a revamp, of the current times of his costume, but it's still relatively the same because he got the iconic lightning bolt symbol in a circle. A lot of characters with lightning, not lightning based powers, but like utilizing lightning as a symbol outside of the Flash. Okay, before we get to it, let's go over Virgil Ovid Hawkins, aka Static's powers. So he's a bang baby. Of course, if you watch the TV show, like bang babies are people who got exposed to this gas, mutagenic gas that some get their physiology altered in random ways, kind of like the Inhuman Terrigen Mist type of situation. So Virgil in particular has electrical kinesis. Static is able to generate electrical energy from his body that he has learned to manipulate in a variety of ways. By focusing the lightning in his hands, Static is able to enhance his strikes. He even from a distance just made eye contact with another and sent a instantaneous electrical charge into them to incapacitate them without firing an actual bolt of electricity. Electro blast, taser punch. I still remember the taser punch. Shocking, isn't it? God, I love that freaking theme song too. Both versions, with the Little Romeo one, and then like the original one from season 1. Electromagnet. God, I can't speak. Electromagnetism, electromagnetic fields, the static cling. Flight, using metallic objects, he can just lift and fly himself anywhere he wants to. He's a genius level intellect with mechanical engineering, science, tactical analysis. He knows a bit of martial arts because, well, the TV show and the older comics, he doesn't learn all that stuff. This is more so trying to give Virgil some bit of, decent physical hand-to-hand combat skill, which is fine. Superheroes need to know how to, be able to throw hands if their powers are, available to them off rip. He's a good sewer, by the way. And he has a static uniform, safety suit, sewn with a chimeric cloth and high-grade protective material. Fabric made of chimeric chemicals, the stability of normal molecules interwoven with the mutability of carbon molecules. which is supposed to be theoretical. It is flame retardant and is resistant to most chemicals. Kinetic energy responsive metal. A metal that looks liquid, however, it is definitely metal and not liquid, but seems to respond to energy. All right. So, one of the best electrical base characters in comic book history. So, this is like, season 1. There's like, I guess, a 0 where you get to see him as a normal person living his high school life and his friends, and then of course like the Big Bang happened. Of course, the TV show, how it went about. Of course, there's a slight difference. The only slight difference between what happened in the show, which was handled very well for the time, and what happened now is in the show, if you remember, there's these rival gangs. One of them, one of the gangs whose leader is friends with, or at least, friendly with Virgil. And he often protects Virgil when dealing with the local school bully named Francis Stone, who will later be known as Hot Streak, who has pyrokinesis. And he is also part of this other gang. And of course, it's very poignant, because the show has done something that you rarely see in TV shows, is where you actually see a gun in a show and dealing with gang activity and everything like that, and peer pressure and all this other stuff that the show was handling, very hard-hitting stuff. Because I love cartoons that doesn't treat its audience like they're idiots. It handle the heavy stuff just enough so you get the point across without beating you over the head with it. Because it's still, at the end of the day, a superhero show dealing with superhero stuff. And so Virgil, not wanting to go down this route, knowing where it's headed, he tosses the gun into the river, trying to get away. But the police, is a sting operation or something, threw some tear gas, but it was near like this warehouse owned by Alva Industries, which is hinted at in the comic. Storing all these chemical agents. It exploded. The gas hits a swath of people. And a lot of people, within 24-hour span, started getting weird powers. In the comic here, it's not like a gang-on-gang activity. It's a static. Virgil was part of this large protest for police brutality, I think, or because this is a year after 2020. And it was still pretty raw for a lot of people after the whole George Floyd situation, because as you will see in like the panels and what have you, it's very heavy with like classism and a bit of like racism and everything like that. I say a little heavy-handed because because I probably didn't think that way when I first read it at the time when it was coming out, because it was pretty raw for a lot of people still. But over time, when things eased up, now reading this again, I still understand, but I also just as equally see like, okay, because it's kind of like reminds me of that agent in Miss Marvel, this woman who was like not so subtly saying some stuff that can easily be interpreted as racist, and it's like you don't need to add this character here. Why you need to? Because it seems kind of like pointless and forced, and that's how I'm reading certain characters in this comic, where it's like, God, that seems very heavy-handed and forced. But I'm not going to knock it too hard, because given the fact that when it was written out, things were pretty raw, and that was like these kind of injustices were heavy at the time. So as I'll bring that up, of course I'll bring it up again once we get to certain panels. So like I said, Virgil is starting again, as you know, his powers are manifesting. He's not oh crap, man, of course, like I forgot about naming the writer, Vita Ayala, Vita Ayala, and artist Chris Cross. Jesus, I'm pretty sure he had like a fun time with that name growing up. And Chris's art style, I freaking love it. I really do love it. The only issue is sometimes in certain small panels it gets kind of cluttered, where I can't even tell what is going on in the image that I'm seeing. And that's the only, con I have about it. Other than that, it looks vibrant. It looks very good. I'm not sure. It's like, kind of almost like marker shadings sometimes. I don't know. Utilizing kind of matte black, a black matte background or something like that. I don't know. It's just like it just makes, like, when you see the electricity really starts to spark, it's super vibrant. So it works in this particular case for the Static Shock comic. And I'm pretty sure, the season 2 comic, he was brought on again to do more of the art, which, like, I hope he will do for a good while, because it'll be very jarring to see a different artist doing something completely different, but their own take on it, and hopefully we'll still love it. But anyway, Virgil is, still reeling from the fact that when he got back to school after the Big Bang incident, he's still getting hassled by Francis, who was, wilding, because this dude was just like a straight up bully. There's like a unredeemable ass. And so Virgil kind of snapped, and he does his taser punch and knocks this dude out. And of course, a few people he knows, his supporting cast, know who he is and what he can do. And that's another difference between this comic and the show, because in the show, the mom's dead, but she used to be a paramedic. Here, it's the daughter, but the mom is alive here and is a doctor, while the sister is an EMT. And of course, I kind of like, the dad to be kind of like a pudgy dad bod, like on the show, but I guess it works here to make him a little bit more strong, muscular, person. But it's like great characters, and they all know his powers, they all know who he is, and eventually by the end of the book, they are supportive of him being like a superhero and everything like that. Unlike from the show, it took the entire series before eventually the dad knew, but prior to him, the sister eventually picked up on it. But there's no secret identity mess within Virgil's supporting cast in this comic. But of course, he still wear goggles and stuff like, and the sock mask thing. But well, it wasn't the whole sock mask thing. It was something else, and a hoodie. But so right now he's like, I won't say he has no control of it, but he doesn't know how to focus it. He gets a buzzing in his ear where I'm reading it, probably signals that he needs to like lay out the energy, and he's keeping contained because he's like uneasy. He doesn't know what to do. So a lot of stuff is hitting him all at once. So he's like a 16 or 17 years old. So it's confusing time for him, more so than usual. We also starting to meet is supporting cast. Like this one's new, named Darius, who's this radio jockey. Well, I don't want to say radio jockey, but he well, it's kind of like a podcaster in a way. It's trying to spread like the real news, get the scoop, kind of like the Lois Lane kind of situation, trying to get the real scoop and trying to disrupt the disinformation being spun by certain media outlets. And of course, he gets involved. He eventually finds out about. He knows, what Virgil can do and stuff like that too. And he's trying to spread the word about what happened with the whole, the Big Bang incident. He eventually gets involved because certain kids who got caught in the Big Bang go to him for support and try to figure things out, because they, some of these bang babies are again snatched up off the street and never heard from again. So that's how he gets involved. But you also get Frida, who I believe is supposed to be, because it's Frida and Daisy that's in the TV show, and I'm pretty sure it's Frida who's like the true love interest for Virgil. We also got Gear, but I remember him as Gear because he eventually get kind of powers too, but super intelligence. But here he's a normal guy. Crap, I'm blanking on his name. Richie. And so once again, they try to be supportive because they know he kind of wigged out on Francis the other day, and Virgil's worried that people are gonna find out about him and start grilling him and looking at him differently. And he's worried all about that because he doesn't want to be looked at like a thing or something that might be wrong with him, and he just want to be treated like a normal person. And all that is swirling in his head. But cool friends he has here where they trying to like reach out to him. But here's the thing, what I like about Static is like what I like about somebody like Spider-Man. They joke a lot, and you barely get that from this Virgil. He does crack wise every now and again, but I don't know. It's the quips should be not rapid like he's Deadpool, but it's just like a little bit more than what is given to us, in my opinion. But then while he's trying to have later on that night, while he's trying to have dinner with his family, and they're bickering, the parents are bickering over what to do about the situation with their son. And of course the sister's trying to speak up for her brother. It was like, won't you, instead of talking about him right in front of him, won't you ask him what he wants and stuff like that? It's confusing time for everybody. Chances are high they don't want nothing to happen to their kid. That's what they're primarily worried about, and it's coming out in kind of like outbursty ways. But then High Street shows up to try to take on Virgil. Virgil, decides like, amp up his powers. And of course, this is like a I guess localized neighborhood. There's certain people who know what Virgil did and not out him to anybody else, which is decent. Nobody's neighbors are that freaking cool. They treat us like, sometimes they treat the situation like that, like it's they did that in the Miles Morales game too. They treat when like after Miles defeats the Tinkerer, or at least helps the Tinkerers with expending the energy and everything like that in the game. he falls to the ground with his mask off, and they protect the neighborhood, protects Spider-Man's identity and from the news press and everything like that. And of course, it's a cool moment. It's like a cool hallmark moment, but realistically, it's like people usually like stay out of it for the most part. I'm pretty sure there might be a fair amount of people who would do what this neighborhood would do, but it's just like in this modern age, people are I don't know. You probably say they feel like they owe the kid from keeping this guy from burning out the whole possible neighborhood. Uh, but I don't know. It's just like the adult side of me is trying to stay realistic, while the comic book side of me is like, that's pretty cool people. But I don't know. I probably would have and this is just in my mind, the good happy middle ground where certain people in the neighborhood question whether or not to say something about it, but then come to a realization that no, he stopped that maniac. We're gonna stick up for him instead of just automatically just doing it. At least that's how I would have played it. At least offer at least a panel or two. Doesn't need to be a full page splash or an arc in of itself. Just like a panel or two of certain members of the community speaking with possibly like Virgil's parents, and it's like a little freaked at first, but then like the mom or the dad bring up how like it was Virgil. Y'all remember him as a little kid? He was he helped Rachel Lee's Mrs. Harris, and he showed snow. So he helped you guys out with your moving. He's the same old person, so don't treat him any differently now. And this gives them like a realization, it's still the same old Virgil. He's a good person, and something like that. Instead of just like just cutting to the chase, as it were. But he fights Hot Streak. And of course, you couldn't stop him from, I say lighting his house on fire, but it's, the fire didn't spread too far where Virgil, remembering this teacher named Metcalf, Metcalf or something like that. He's in like a different Dakota verse type of story, but he has a cameo in one of the issues where he assists Virgil into finding like one of his old storage units so he can gather some materials that help build up his costume and everything like that later. But he remembers from one of the lessons he was teaching him, because I guess he was like teaching one of Virgil's class, and because he's a scientist, he's like a young scientist, he loves all that stuff. So he's used the ionized air around the house before it spreads any further, because right now it just sends the outside of it. It didn't spread any further than that. So he gathers it all up in a ball and sends it into the high enough into the air so that way it can disperse safely. Great use of his scientific knowledge. Characters like him and Spider-Man, very rarely a writer will remember the fact that these guys are scientists. You got to incorporate that a little bit more often. They're not like street level characters like Luke Cage, who doesn't have any kind of scientific knowledge or interest to figure something like that out. They do, so you need to express that in order to help have them utilize that in their toolbox to deal with certain problems, instead of just relying on just sheer force or whatever. But Francis ended up getting away, while once again the parents are just like bickering and the dad doesn't want to get any, because the mom wants the son to get examined, because after the Big Bang, they did go to the doctors, and of course, like the mom said, they didn't know what they was looking for, so they did their typical examination that anybody would get, and what they got is like, oh, he's fine. But now that we know, we can look at it a particular direction in order to make sure. Of course, the dad doesn't want anybody prodding, or treating his son like a lab rat. And of course, he bring up about the whole, like, how black people are treated, how black people were treated in the medical field all those years ago as like like lab rats and testing certain diseases and horrific stuff, back in the day, which was a thing, and has always been that level of fear in certain black communities and stuff like that. Like I said, it's kind of heavy-handed with that kind of speak, where it's like, I don't know, I want to say they're using it as like an excuse to bring that kind of crap up, but I don't know, it feeds into the narrative fine. I just think personally, I was like, okay, you're leaning so hard into it, where it's like, it's not on the top of every black person's mind, unless you're dealing with like serious racism, like the most of your life, which do a fair bit, but it's like you're dealing with like every person that's not black that you ever met, as like they treat you less than in your face every second of every day you walk out of your house. Unless you're doing something like that where you got that type of mindset and you're writing in comics, of course it'll come out through that. But it's just like, if I need to go to the dentist, I'm not worried about like how, this is me speaking personally, as I'm not speaking for all black people here, as a black person. I'm going to something like the dentist or just getting like a checkup. I'm not thinking like about all the times that black people were treated by certain scientists or doctors of yesteryear, and that is just like my just go to fear. It's very fear based in a way, because you need a doctor, you're still human, you need to go, and you can go make sure you find like maybe like a black doctor if you feel more better about it. But that's just the thing. It's like, I don't know, it's like this kind of like speak, it's like it's like at best 40 to 50% of black families are probably thinking about that kind of stuff at best. I'm just being generous with that, because I don't know every black person experience, but it just seems like it's not the worry of every black people either at the same time. But once again, they speaking about Virgil right in front of him, because it's like 16. I mean, this is parents in general, where it's like they're worried about their kid, and it's like growing up, I remember like family members speaking about me or some other relative, like kid, like cousin or brother or whatever, right in front of them, like they don't have any agency, because like they just see, because just, I don't know, maybe it's this first knee-jerk reaction that, oh, this is our kid, like they're toddlers, they can't speak for themselves or have any agency for themselves, and that's just something they just forget. You see later they include him in certain dialogue, but it's Sharon, the sister, who keep having to point out to them, once or twice she gets kind of shut down, because it's still like their child too, but she points out like, why don't you speak, we're not dumb, why don't you talk with us, include us in this conversation, it ain't just you two here. And of course they she gets quickly dismissed here, but later on they starting to be a little bit more, when things died down, they started to be a little more inclusive, including them in this kind of conversations. And Virgil's, this doesn't help Virgil's attitude, because the parents are not treating him like, not necessarily not an adult, but also don't treat him, he's not a kid either. And about to ask him how he's feeling about what he's going through, what his opinion is, and all that stuff is like messing around with his mind. He's balled up. And of course, when he gets to school, Darius is hounding him, trying to get like the latest scoop. And of course, out of frustration, Virgil electrocutes his phone. He feels bad about it later, but he just constantly tells him to leave him alone. He's not in the mood to deal with his like gossip columnist bull crap. But it's like he wouldn't leave him alone, so he just shocked his phone. At the same time, Hostry was picked up by these government shadow men who are rounding up bang babies to experiment on, utilize to where they see fit, and everything like that. And Hostry offers for essentially immunity if he and some knowledge about certain bang babies, and he wants to be pretty much like a deputized agent they can unleash to get certain bang babies if they're unable to do so themselves at first. Because this guy is like a complete ass. Ignoring the fact that he's a high schooler, we all know like certain bullies. If you get like it's kind of like Biff from Back to the Future with the sports almanac. You give like certain bullies, enough power, they won't learn about checking themselves or grow or learn from their mistakes. They just exacerbate what they're carrying on, the mindset they're carrying on. So he's just a complete dick. So he's turning on other bang babies for his own self-interest. So Virgil speaks to Metcalf, and Metcalf tells him about the storage unit where he can get certain gills that might help him. And of course, he's on the run with some situation that's happening like a different milestone type of comic that's probably running parallel to this. And of course, cops end up showing up because I'm pretty sure they're looking for him because it's tied into whatever he's got going on. And then once again, these cops starts firing once Virgil was not like when he's like, get down on your knees, because they see just a guy in a mask. They assume it's Metcalf anyway, but he's not complying, so they just immediately start firing. Of course, thanks to his powers, he stopped the bullets, and he's topping over them. And of course, once again, playing very heavy-handed with the certain dialogues. The cop says, "Stop, you little thug!" Oh no, I'm not doing this with you guys. And of course, like I said, when the stuff was being written, things was kind of raw with like police. The whole defund the police kind of situation was at its height around that time. So police wasn't looked upon very favorably, so they treated like schmucks in comics. So not to saying like there aren't like a-hole racist cops out there in the world, but they are really leaning into it in the writing here. Of course, Daisy, who in this, because there was a Daisy character in the show, but she was a normal person. Here, Daisy was part of the protest. She got bang baby powers. It seems more so able to disintegrate or break things upon touch or something. I'm not sure what exactly what Daisy's able to the specific label of what she's able to do. The only thing I can think of is like, you know, destroy or disintegrate things that she can touch, or disassemble things that she can touch. Maybe, I don't know. Let me look this up. Mm, Daisy Watkins. I'm sorry, I just had to look this up. No, Daisy Watkins. I was trying to find her last name. Oh, oh. Oh. Um. Yeah. I can't get anything. So they haven't really probably landed on what she can exactly do, but uh, uh, all I can say is it seems like just disintegrate or disassemble stuff upon touch. Because taking one of his figurines and it's all coming apart in her hands. So she coming to him for help since he probably knows what's what, because he's getting a local scoop on what's really going on. But she ends up getting taken away off the street by those G-men. Uh, Virgil, and his family starts getting along again after things die down, and he start working on the house with Richie and Frida. And the dad, of course, he's the one that's teaching Virgil how to fight, some martial arts and stuff like that. And of course, they all learn martial arts. They couldn't. I mean, it's helpful, but you know, I don't know. It doesn't necessarily need to just be boxing or be kickboxing or something like that. It's generic martial arts, which is helpful, but it seems kind of like easy. Hey, Angel. What's up, man? Kenneth, what's up? But yeah, but it's still cool. I mean, like the writing, it can be heavy-handed sometimes because of social issues that there's driving it. But because it was, I remember it being like this in season 2 of the comic. But hopefully, moving forward with future Static Shock comics, they can ease up on the whole social issues. Like me personally, like when I want to read a comic, like the show handled it very beautifully, where every now and again they bring up some social issue, like Richie's dad being a racist, or gun violence, or a kid shooting up a school or something like that. I still remember those episodes that still hit hard, but it wasn't like wall to wall of that stuff. Otherwise it just seems like depressing as hell. But it's a superhero show at the end of the day, and you want to see Static Shock stopping bad guys. There's still a Christmas episode where there's no major fight. It just is a homeless girl with superhero powers, like pretty much frozen before Elsa was a thing. And it's Static Shock being a person and wanting to help this young woman who is living on the street but has no control over her ice powers, and he just offered a bit of help. But you want to see Static Shock stop, just bad guys, being a superhero, learning and growing into his own, meeting other heroes along the way that he can learn from. It isn't just wall-to-wall black struggle. It's like you get kind of, it's not all the way like this, but it's, in my mind, it's like no one wants another slave movie kind of situation. No black person wants to constantly, it's like torture porn for black people. No one wants to keep constantly seeing that stuff. That's why I don't watch any of the Jordan Peele films, because like I don't want to constantly just deal with that crap. It's like it's boring. I know I say boring, but it's like it's too much, really. I want to watch Static Shock being a hero. I don't want them seeing talking about like constant bigotry with cops. I just want them to, I hope they got it out of the system in the season 1 and 2 comic, and just moving forward they can just kind of ease up on that. But then eventually next day, or at least later on that day, the G-Man, one of them being led by this Agent Jones, I keep forgetting his doggone name, who literally walks up to the Hawkins household with Hot Streak, the guy who literally torched this place, a couple of days ago. And of course, I'm glad everybody called him out on it, because a lot of neighborhood people don't know how they just get alerted. They will probably be in a house at this time of night preparing for dinner or whatever. But they happened upon seeing like all these G-men with the guy who literally was trying to burn down the neighborhood in tow with them. And these guys claiming to be one of the good guys, and they want to make sure Virgil is okay. Let's, bring him, let's take him in to see what's going on. And of course, they're not buying that bull crap. So it's like, if you don't have a warrant, we have no business even talking to you, let alone giving him up. So of course, upon seeing like the crowded neighborhood, gathering that can't really do much, so they just split. But Virgil decides, like, I gotta do something like this. I gotta help, because people are being taken off the street. These spooks are taking bang babies, doing God knows what with them. I gotta do something about it. So he answers the call to the hero's journey kind of situation. So he starts testing out his powers, manipulating these ionides like metal shavings or whatever, and then starts, you know, making up his costume. And then he speaks with his sister, who tells him about this uh, girl who was a bang baby, and her powers was kind of like creating light, but without any kind of heat to them. And it just they had to pump her full of like high, you know, she was almost treated like a high crap. What's the word? Hypo hypoglycemia. So they kind of had to, you know, give her some nutrients, but she keeps burning it all as quickly as they give it to her. So she comes up with the idea, the fact that, you know, like bang babies, you know, they burn through their own energy resource. So she gives Virgil these little pellet things for him to eat, because he needs to replenish his own body's nutrients when he burns them all, in order for him to be able to fight back, and put in like a panic button in his suit, so that way it reaches her directly, so she can quickly, she and a couple of other EMTs can get there quickly in order to help. So that way, you know, if anything goes down, he has like an easy excuse and nobody will figure out who he is, or whatever the case may be, which is very smart. So Virgil gathers Darius, Richie, and Frida in order to help him, because they figure out where they, you know, thanks to Darius, figure out where the other bang babies are being held in this old steel mill. And of course Hot Streak shows up, and so it's Static versus Hot Streak. And of course Hot Streak gets an opening, and he fires a blast of fire in Virgil's face, and you see, like, you know, at least like, I don't know the degrees, I'm assuming it's like first degree burns maybe, because it wasn't crazy like Two-Face or anything like that, but he like fires it at Virgil's face. So he takes one of the pellets that quickly heals him. And like I said, the art in this is phenomenal. I really enjoyed it. It's like usually Static Shock Comics has like awesome artwork, and so he goes full force. He brings the fight into the facility so he can gather all these, like, you know, electronics and everything like that. Wraps Hot Streak in all these wires and electrocutes him. Doesn't kill him, but he takes him out of the game, so he can push forward in order to get these people out of their cells. And they even have these inhibitor kind of nodes on their necks that Static, you know, carefully gets out, because it's like embedded in their necks, not in the bone or anything like that, but it's, you know, attached to their nervous system to inhibit them from using their powers. He gets them off, but Darius tries to, you know, make sure before he does that, explains to the group of people that they're liberating, like, okay, we need to, you know, don't start wilding out. Let's keep a cool heads and let's focus on getting out without causing mayhem along the way. And then of course Virgil, you know, he I guess letting his emotions get better of him. He kind of snaps at Darius. It's like, you're not even one of us. Don't tell us not to be angry. They literally have us in cages here, man, experimenting on us. And of course he realized that wasn't really fair, but Darius has to, like I said, it's kind of heavy-handed, but it probably needed to be said. Darius points out to Virgil, sure, I'm not a bang baby, but I'm a gay black man who, you mean I, you know, you can't of course I'm going to tell you, because I know anger. I want to like lash out. I want to like get my get back and everything like that. But wilding out in just wild anger isn't going to fix us. The only thing it's going to do is get people like us killed. We got to learn to harness it and focus it in a proper way that isn't destructive. And that will circle back at the end of the run. But I'm glad you said this, because it's kind of like a pointed out. I think it's kind of like a lesson to people, because it's like after the whole riot situation after George Floyd and all that other stuff, and people started burning down a lot of buildings. I get the anger, but it's just like, it seems like well, I can't really like say it wasn't like quote unquote justified. It's like a tipping point where it's like, okay, another one of us is getting like just murdered, and it's just kind of like, okay, we're done done with it kind of attitude. And it's like, you know, it's like a cornered animal, and you're not expecting that animal to lash out in like a wild aspect any which way possible for, you know, they can get out of the situation. But there's also things called righteous anger, and you gotta focus it in the right proper ways in order to do what needs to be done, and not just burn everything to the ground, just spite your face kind of situation. But then you get the iconic, the Big Bang baddies. I guess they're being called. I don't think they've ever been called like that in the show. But the typical group, you got Puff, Shiv, Talon. I forget the other guys, but like I recognize them. I was like, God, it's like amazing to see these guys, especially Puff. I love the design of Puff in this more so than in the show. I never cared for her design in the show, but I love the more updated look for her here. And of course, Talon is like also, I guess not many people know that Talon is, I don't know if she's Puerto Rican, but she's of some kind of Spanish descent. And of course, like Shiv is Asian. And of course, like he's just kind of like a wild nut too. It is. And of course, Derek, who we seen in the first issue, because he's, you know, like the basketball star of the high school. He at some point along the line, you know, his powers manifested, so he looks like this big glowing energy monster. So it's really dope to see these guys. And of course, Talon, Shiv, and Puffs are attacking because they quickly turn on, you know, Static and everybody who just helped them get out of their cages. And they said like, oh, we were offered by these G-men to help, you know, stop you and round up all the other Bang babies in order to get like immunity and all this other stuff, the same way as Hot Street did. And it's like completely self-servicing of themselves. And it's like, I don't know where, at what point, because that made no sense, because you was literally just in cages. As soon as they let you out and took off those inhibitor disc things, now all of a sudden like, oh yeah, we were working for these Agent Jones and his men, and it's like to take you down. It's like there's a missing panel or a missing issue or something, or somebody forgot something, because you wouldn't have, if you, because like with Hot Streak, because here's the thing, when you turned, when Hot Streak decided to work for them, for Agent Jones, I think they should have included these other Bang babies like Puff and Shiv and Talon in the same room, or showing like a different panel of separate rooms, seeing them, you know, willingly agree to work for them in order to hunt down other Bang babies in lieu of, like, you know, imprisonment or, you know, experimentation and stuff like that. And then not put them in cages, because like, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense of why they just like, oh yeah, we've been working for them, you know, working for them, I'm going to take you guys down. It makes no sense. That is the biggest kind of like plot hole, or I won't say even plot hole, it's just like a straight up mistake, just to get a fight between classic, Static Shock villains, because I don't know, these just gonna trying to force a fight between them, and it's like you could have handled it a completely different way. Like they just want to get out, and like when trying to tell them to calm down, it's like, no, we got our powers back, we're about to wreck some shit. And of course Static fights them just to keep them from causing death, because he's trying to incapacitate the agents, not kill them. They want to kill them. That would be a simple way of getting like a fight between his classic villains. Doing like this makes no sense. But of course he easily stops them one by one. Well, mostly Shiv, Puff, and Talon. And you see Derek, and he speaks sense into him, and and his friends escort them out, while Agent Jones speaks over the loudspeaker, because after Static gives this big speech about they like to treat us like thugs or animals or all this other stuff, but we're people. We don't nobody deserves to be treated like this, and we're more than this. We can be better than this, and we can show them. And then it kind of Agent Jones calls like over the intercom. It's like, it kind of reminds me of Wayne Brady and the Chappelle Show. Like, they say after school special, because he got that. He doesn't say it like that, but he got that kind of same kind of thought process. Like, this ain't the local community center or after school special kind of crap. It's like this is the real world. You people are dangerous, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So, but he all the while is trying to save as much information he can, while Stag and his friends are destroying all the software stuff as they could, so that way they can't re-round them up later. And it's a cool display of Stag's abilities, where he just eats all the pellets that he has left, and then just supercharges and knocks out all the power, not only just in the building, but for several blocks. But Agent Jones makes his escape all the while. So Stag goes on, inserts himself on the news outlet, using his powers, and tells like, like, I'm sick of this whole media spin thing. I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is and how it is about I don't want to mince words here. 1 second here. The people with money and the mic want you to think that we're thugs. They want you to believe that we who gathered to protest the unjust murder of black people are dangerous and anti-community. But I think you're smarter than that. What we are is angry. I've been told that anger is dangerous, bad, and that all it leads to is trouble. But anger is just energy. Left unchecked and without purpose, anger can destroy, but we are not without purpose. If you are angry about the brutality that gets rained down on people, it's because deep down you know it shouldn't be that way, and you want it to change. When channeled, anger can be the fuel. Anger can be the fuel to bring about great and positive change. It can build and protect. When directed, anger can be revealed to be hope. So yeah, like I said, what Darius said to Stag, circles back. And I like this look right here where he just like interrupt the news broadcast. It is an incredible design. But I like the line of dialogue. And it's very true, because like after the whole I remember in 2020, like one of the GameStops that I know got broken into, and after rioting was happening everywhere, and it's just like it's just like a wildfire of anger, and it's just not directed where it needs to be directed. And it's not saying like you have no right to feel the way you do, but it's just like you let it just, the bubble burst all in kinds of directions. And I can't need to say it was justified or not justified. It just, it need to be directed to the way where it needed to go, and not just trying to establish some kind of point or get your get back or something. But then while Agent Jones, is talking with his superiors on the phone, you get Ebon showing up. You don't see him, but you know who he is. He's merged with the shadow. He just takes this guy out. This is the last we see of Agent Jones, and because Ebon is looking for his brother that was captured by Agent Jones, or at least members that worked with Agent Jones at least. So that was pretty dope. So the story ends with Static, a full-fledged superhero of the Dakota City, and that was Static season 1. Don't know when I'm gonna do season 2. Possibly, maybe it's gonna be next February for Black History Month. But yeah, I've been wanting to like do a Static Shock comic after I'm done with Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, because it's 3 seasons of that, and I just started. After I'm done with that, either I'm gonna get into the rest of Food Wars anime to do my review, because I've only done season 1 review. I want to complete it all. But I also want to start getting to Static Shock TV show, but maybe I'll do Static after Food Wars. So I think it's only 3-4 seasons of Static Shock. But anyway, I will see you guys. I don't know, I might pop in for, I don't know. Don't know if I like necessarily have the energy to play any games tonight. What do I got? Yeah, maybe I can try to take a break from streaming. So, because I want to play some. I've been saying I want to go back into Tekken 8 and learn a new character, but maybe I'll do that after work tomorrow. Because I want to get enough reviews done as much as I can before FF7 Rebirth come out, because that's going to take up so much of my time. So that is like another thing I want to I can't wait to get to. Luckily, it's not that much movies or games this year that I want to pick up, because there's quite a few, but in terms of games, there's only maybe like a couple, because I got Tekken 8, the Black Myth Wukong coming out later this year, and then the FF7 Rebirth. That's the 3 primary ones that I was looking forward to this year. So I can pour a lot, so it wouldn't be that much games that will be taking up too much of my time, giving me more room for more reviews. So the next comic book review that I'll be doing will be going back into the X-Men world. I'll be taking on X Factor type of comic, talking about X Factor. So look forward to that in the coming weeks. But other than that, thank you for stopping by. I will see you guys soon. Have a great weekend. Take care. Peace.